Hey there, Dragon Folk. How are we all doing today? Hopefully you're doing good. Hopefully everybody's doing good, because today, September 2nd, is and was the release of more spoilers for Innistrad Midnight Hunt. And let me tell you, after watching that, Joe's acting was great. Jimmy was there. It was a fun time. Catch it on twitch.tv/magic. They should have the VOD up. It's only like 30 minutes, so you can feel free to check that out. But what I'm going to do today is I'm going to go over the new cards that were revealed with you guys. And hopefully we have a fun time looking through them. Hopefully you guys are just about as excited for the set as I am. As somebody who is a collector of the showcase cards, I am so hyped for the showcase for this set. But anyway, enough of me just sitting here with my face. So, here we have the Innistrad Midnight Hunt spoilers. So, I'm going to move myself over here. Give me one sec. Move this. All right. Maybe we'll flip me too. It'll probably work out better. There we go. So now here I am. Make myself a little bit bigger. So today we have the Innistrad Midnight Hunt spoilers. So we're going to start off with some of the stuff. More of the like expensive, cool stuff is further down, but they did release a lot of spoilers for many cards today. So we're going to start off with some of these common cards here. Famished Foragers, Vampire. And for those of you who did not watch it, and for those of you who are not sure about Innistrad, Innistrad is a set that's based in kind of like a horror concept. So it's got like vampires and werewolves and undead and witches and warlocks and all that stuff. And believe it or not, there used to be quite a big like angel presence in here too. But there's a whole lore backstory behind that I might make a video about later. But essentially, the whole point behind this set is that these witches are trying to get the day back because the nights are getting longer in Innistrad, and eventually there might not be a sun to ever rise ever again. So there's going to be a big amount of witches. There's a lot of humans, it seems to be in here, because while this focuses a lot on like werewolves as well, humans are the big thing in here, as well as werewolves. There does seem to be a pretty big undead presence as well, but for the most part, vampires will take their place in Crimson Vow, which is the next set that's going to come out. But this set definitely focuses more on the werewolf aspect than the vampire aspect. But regardless, let's go over the cards. So, we have Famished Forager. When it enters the battlefield, if an opponent lost life this turn, add 3 red mana. And then you can pay 2 and a red to discard a card and draw a card. So, not sure on the... It's a 4-3 for 3, or 4-3 for 4. And then if you ended up, hitting someone in the face with something, then they will get... then you'll get 3 additional mana. So really, this can cost 1 if you really look into it. So I wouldn't say it's a very great card. I'm sure it'll find its uses where I don't see it, but we're going to go ahead and just see from there. Stormrider Spirit. It's a 4 other and a blue 3/3 flyer with flash. Not a very fantastic card. I'm not very happy about that, but I'm sure there's going to be a way for us to kind of get it back from the graveyard at some point, so maybe it'll be a little bit more accessible. The Brimstone Vandal. Menace. This creature can't be blocked except by 2 or more creatures. And then if it is neither day nor night, it becomes day as Brimstone Vandal enters the battlefield. And then whenever day becomes night or night becomes day, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. So, I'm assuming that could be used for the Famished Foragers. That's another thing that they introduced in the set, is a day-night cycle. So, essentially, if I recall correctly from what I just watched, if it's neither day or night, essentially you can have it become day when a daybound or nightbound stuff goes into play. So if it's daytime, if you didn't cast any spells that turn, You know what? Let me see if I can actually find it real quick. Yeah, so essentially what it is you have the day token, which is if it becomes day or night, or if a day-bound permanent enters the battlefield, track day-night for the rest of the game. So, unless specifically stated, it will neither be day nor night. But if it does ever become day or night, I believe that is for everyone, and also for yourself. Yeah, so like your opponent's stuff also, as well as your stuff. Now, I don't know how well it's going to work, because some people's night stuff is pretty great, but some people's day stuff is better. So, like, I guess you'd have to kind of figure it out what's going to work better for you. So having, like, essentially a field spell is very... it's going to be hit or miss in regards to this, but I guess we're going to kind of see. But essentially, as it becomes day, transform all Nightbound permanents. So that Daybound, Nightbound stuff, we'll get into that later as some cards, but essentially they have that transform ability, where you have a Daybound card, which is essentially its day form, and a Nightbound card, which is its night form. So when it's day, it's one side of the card. When it's night, it's flipped, and you flip that card. So, as it becomes day, anything that is Nightbound flips to its Daybound. So they transform back to their Daybound. And then if a player casts no spells during their own turn, it becomes night next turn. So that is kind of the concept there. I'm assuming there's going to be a lot of cards changing the ways day and night works. And I'm sure it's going to be much like how it was previously, where you have Nightbound stuff. When it transforms into day, it does something special, or when it transforms from day to night, it does something special. So maybe like a cycle, a weird like hypercycle time thing will end up working out and getting a lot there. But so that's the day cycle. So when it turns night, you then get the night token. And so as it becomes night, transform all Daybound permanents. So anything that is Daybound flips to Nightbound, and anything that triggers off of it changing from day to night or night to day also triggers. Permanents enter the battlefield Nightbound. So when it's night, you can't play your Daybound card. Everything comes into play Nightbound. And then if a player casts at least 2 spells during their own turn, it becomes day the next turn. So the next turn, which means that as soon as your turn ends, their turn begins, it will become day. So very interesting concept. It's going to take a while, I think, for me to figure out the idea behind it, but I quite enjoy the concept behind it. And I'm going to see how well it transforms. I didn't play back when Transform was a thing. Back when Innistrad first came out, I was not playing the game at the time, so I didn't get to live in the whole Transform era. But this specifically is like a field effect, and I'm curious to see what happens with it. Okay, so back here. So now that we've gone over the day-night cycle stuff, when day becomes night or night becomes day, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. So Brimstone Vandal might be nice for a good burn deck, because quite literally, if people are going to be changing their stuff all over the place, this will at least deal 1 damage to your opponent. Pretty passive stuff. I imagine this is going to be good in some kind of Rakdos variant. Curse of Obsession is an enchantment or a curse. So curses are back here. I don't know if they were the case in Kaldheim, I think. But curses, which are generally not good things you're going to want, but you enchant the player. At the beginning of enchanted player's draw step, that player draws 2 additional cards. At the beginning of enchanted player's end step, that player discards their hand. So you essentially give them 2 cards for free during their draw phase, but then they have to discard their whole hand at the end of the turn, which means that theoretically they would be using that for... it'd be huge in regards to like commander stuff. This is obviously a commander card, as you can tell by the little set symbol here. This one's going to be coming out in the commander sets. But man, that's kind of rough, because if they have to discard their whole hand, it's, the 2 cards are going to be whatever, right? It's not going to be the end of the world. But they do draw 2 additional cards, which means they'll get 3 cards in their hand every turn, and only 3, as long as it's enchanted. So they have to use all 3 of those cards, or they have to drop them all. And that's a very interesting way to go about playing. I'm curious to see how that works out. Defenestrate, destroy target creature without flying. That's a good portion of them. Cost 3, 1 black, 2 colorless. It's not a bad instant, but it's pretty specific. I don't know if that's... I wouldn't run that over Bloodchief's Thirst, but it's not bad. Arrogant Outlaw, 2 colorless, 1 black, 3/2 Vampire Noble. When Arrogant Outlaw enters the battlefield, if an opponent lost life this turn, each opponent loses 2 life, you gain 2 life. That's not bad. Another, like, you know, if this goes off and then this guy gets put on the field, they also lose 2 life, you gain 2 life. So, kind of a neat little 3-point hitter. We've got Dawnheart Rejuvenator, 3 other, 1 green, 2/4 human warlock. These are the kind of warlock which the Dawnheart are the name of the coven, the witches that are essentially going through and trying to make it so it's daytime. Whenever Dawnheart Rejuvenator enters the battlefield, you gain 3 life, and you can tap to add 1 mana of any color. Now, it's not bad for a mana dork. Definitely going to be used in Selesnya a lot, which obviously is going to make sense because of the card that you'll see eventually, which is essentially a Selesnya-based card. So, Vision of Ruin, this is going to be a commander card. Each opponent sacrifices an artifact. For each artifact sacrificed this way, you create a treasure token. So, you in a 4-man commander deck, or a 4-man commander like pod, this is nice because if each person does that, you gain 3 treasure tokens. And then it's got Flashback, which is great to see. Great to see Flashback there. So essentially you get to play it X less to cast this way, where X is the greatest mana value of a commander that you own on the battlefield or in your command zone. So that's kind of neat. And you essentially can cast it from your graveyard for its Flashback cost and exile. So you can do it again, especially if you have a high cost. Yeah, if you... The greatest mana value of a commander you own on the battlefield or in the command zone. So that's pretty great for, like, the big commanders, like freaking Ulamog or something. Like, that'd just be minus, like, 10, I think. Ulamog is 10. So, nuts. Visions of Dominance. So this is Visions cards. I see them down here. So these are commander-specific color things. This one costs 2 other and a green. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature, then double the number of +1/+1 counters on it. Pretty great for 3. And this is another Flashback, same thing. Vision of Duplicity. Exchange control of 2 target creatures you don't control. Interesting. That's good. Once again, another commander, like politics kind of deal. It's got Flashback as well. Visions of Dread. Target opponent puts a creature card from their choice from their graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. So that's kind of nice if you're able to pull this off early. Not sure what decks I'm sure this would work in, but I'm sure it's something. And it's got the same... These all have the same Flashback thing, so that's kind of neat. Create a 1/1 white human creature token for each creature you control. That's pretty good, too. Visions of Glory. That's a lot of creatures that you could very well put out, especially if you're having, like, tokens or something. Might of the Old Ways. So we're back to the Innistrad cards. Target creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn, and then Coven. Then if you control 3 or more creatures with different powers, draw a card. So that's the Coven thing, is like you have to have more creatures with different powers. So it's very much so... It's almost like Mentor, but like they don't buff each other. Candle Trap. Enchanted creature has Defender, and then prevent all combat damage that would be dealt by enchanted creature. And sacrifice Candle Trap, exile enchanted creature, activate only if you control 3 or more creatures with different powers. So that's kind of cool to use on your opponent, because your opponent will have a card have Defender, and Defender means you can't attack. They're specifically for blocking. So if you have something that's trying to get through your defenses, or something that's really, really big, and the only thing they can do is block, you can enchant it with Defender, and you prevent all combat damage that would be dealt by enchanted creature, which means that if they attempt to block you, because they have Defender, your creature won't die because it doesn't do any combat damage, which is really crazy cool. And it's a common. But of course, you can pay the 2 and a white and sacrifice this, and you can exile the enchanted creature. So you get rid of the creature entirely, and you exile it. You don't send it to the graveyard, you exile it. Which, honestly, there's a lot of value here for this card. A lot of value. Other than killing it, it straight up just allows it to stay there, so pretty wild. Candlelit Cavalry. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if you control 3 or more creatures with different powers, Candlelit Cavalry gains Trample until the end of turn. So, not bad. 5/5/5, but it's got Coven, so you're going to want to make sure you have things with different powers, so on and so forth. Okay, here are some transform cards. I'm not sure what their transformed sides are yet. At least I haven't seen them. So we've got Baithook Angler. It's got Disturb, which is a new keyword in the set. Disturb is essentially you're able to cast this card from your graveyard, transformed for its Disturb cost. So you pay 1 and a blue, get a 2/1 Human Peasant, and then if it's in the graveyard, you can pay this, a 1 and a blue, and you'll get it transformed. Now this is the transform version of it. If Hook Haunt Drifter would be put into a graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead. So it's a 1/2 spirit with flying. So that's pretty great. That's a pretty low-cost creature for that. So then we have Taver Ruffian. It's daybound. If a player casts no spells during their own turn, it becomes night next turn. And then if it becomes night, it turns into Tavern Smasher. So you can see that's kind of crazy because it's the 2/5 for 4. So it at least is a nice blocker. But the second it becomes night, it's a 6/5 werewolf. And all you need to do is not cast anything. That's pretty insane, not gonna lie. I'm excited to see how that's gonna work out. Avacyn's Memorial. So this is a artifact. It costs 3 white and 5 other. Indestructible. Other legendary permanents you control have indestructible. Okay, so it's essentially what Avacyn would do. That's kind of neat. It's for Commander, right? It's a Mythic in Commander, so I'm sure you're going to find it in one of the Commander decks that come out. Brutal Cathar. Human Soldier Werewolf. When this creature enters the battlefield or transforms into Brutal Cathar, exile target creature an opponent controls until this creature leaves the battlefield. When this creature enters the battlefield or transforms into Brutal Cathar. So when it transforms into this, you exile target creature an opponent controls until this creature leaves the battlefield. That's kind of insane. You can literally just take it. And then Moonrage Brute is when it's flipped. It turns to night. It's got first strike and award pay 3 life. So it's just like Sedgemoor Witch. That's kind of interesting. I'm assuming whenever it turns night, this card, whenever this creature enters the battlefield or transforms into Brutal Cathar. So I'm assuming specifically Brutal Cathar is the one that exiles the stuff. And as soon as Brutal Cathar leaves the battlefield, technically turning into Moonrage Brute, it will give you your exiled card back. Secrets of the Key. So this is where they also brought back the fact that Investigate is a thing in here now. I know Investigate was a thing for Modern Horizons 2. I'm not sure what set it specifically came out in, but Investigate is essentially you can, to investigate, create a colorless clue artifact token with you pay 2 and sacrifice it to draw a card. And then it's got flashback 3 and a blue, costs 1 blue to play. If it was cast from your graveyard, investigate twice instead. So this here is specifically the Selesnya Angel that I was talking about. So it looks like the angel, this is the angel that the Coven of the Dawnheart are actually, they're actually like helping try to get the day back. So Champion of Light, Sigarda. It's got flying, trample, humans you control get +1/+1, so that therefore specifically makes it so you're probably going to have humans. And then whenever it attacks, if you control 3 or more creatures with different powers, look at the top 5 cards of your library, reveal a human creature card from among them, put it into your hand, put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So you get to search for stuff. Humans you control get +1/+1. It's a flying trample angel for 4. It's an all-around, like, average card. But the humans you control get +1/+1 is pretty great. So, can't really complain there. Now, these are the cards I was talking about. So there are 2 kinds of showcase cards, it looks like. And I'm not quite sure what the case is for all of them. But here we have I believe these are called the Eternal Night showcase. And they get the same treatment. This is just the same Sigarda, right? But she's got this black and white treatment, very like old horror movie kind of looking treatment. And also shows off a lot more detail to the character, which is really, really nice. Just a nice like close-up of the face. Now here we have Arlinn, which is a new card, right? But this is Arlinn in the showcase. The, what do they call it? The Eclipse showcase of the set. So the cool thing about the Eclipse stuff is that it's got the sun up here and the moon down here for when they're transform cards. So cool. Love to see it. Arlinn is a Gruul Planeswalker, by the way. So let's just get into Arlinn first. So with Arlinn, the Pack's Hope. Essentially, you have it's 2 colorless, a red and a green. This is a day-bound card, so obviously when day-bound enters the battlefield, you start to do the day-night cycle. So you can +1 to until your next turn, you may cast creature spells as though they had flash, and each creature you control enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it. Really crazy. And it's until your next turn, which means that when it's your opponent's turn and you want to cast your stuff for flash, you can do that, and they'll get the +1/+1 counter, so on and so forth. Then, if you can do a -3, so right off the bat, you can create a 2/2 green wolf creature token, 2 2/2 green wolf creature tokens. So not a bad thing here. And then, obviously, if it turns night at all, you get Arlinn the Moon's Fury. And so, pretty crazy looking card. Like, I mean, not like the best kind of version, but like you can see it here. Pretty cool. It's the Nightbound card. For +2, you can add a green and a red. So it's a mana rock or a mana dork at that point. But then you can, for 0 until the end of the turn, Arlinn the Moon Fury becomes a 5/5 werewolf creature with trample, indestructible, and haste. So pretty great. Pretty great as far as that goes. I definitely think that's a very good card. Gruul Planeswalker for standard. And look at this art. I just love the art. The art for it's so good. So good. I'm so excited. This is also the borderless version of this. So this is the same card, Arlinn the Pack's Hope. And then this is Arlinn the Moon's Fury. This is the borderless version. Obviously, the Planeswalkers get the borderless treatment. So there's that. This is another Gruul creature, right? And the cool thing is that this is actually a legendary creature that's a werewolf, which means that this is a werewolf commander that you can use. And whenever a wolf or werewolf you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. And at the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 3 or more wolves and or werewolves, it becomes night. Then transform any number of human werewolves you control. And then the Nightbound, first off, let's just look at the alt art for this. So good. Like, look how cool this, I just love how this looks. There's still like leaves and everything across the sides. So cool. And then when it turns night, you get the Midnight Scourge. It's a 4/4 werewolf. Whenever a wolf or werewolf you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. Then you can pay X and a red and a green to target wolf or werewolf you control gets +X/+0 and gains trample until the end of the turn. So kind of neat, little buffing, right? That's just what werewolves do. That's just what Gruul does, I should say. So nice to see some Gruul. I'm expecting to see Gruul werewolves, especially with that werewolf that came out in the Dungeons and Dragons set just recently with Pack Tactics. Can't remember what its name is, but essentially that is probably going to be one of the bigger things in there too. Now we also have Jadar, Ghoulcaller of Nephalia. So Jadar also gets a cool Eternal Night card here. At the beginning of your end step, if you control no creatures with Decayed, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token with Decayed. So Decayed is a new keyword in here as well. Decayed essentially says it can't block. When it attacks, sacrifice it at the end of combat. So it doesn't need to attack, but it also can't block. So you can use it for sacrifice fodder, or you can just start going in with a bunch of zombies that you know are going to take out some stuff. So great way to kind of ramp things through. As far as a 1/1 creature, I mean, you have to control no creatures with Decayed to create a 2/2 black zombie creature token with Decayed, which means you can only get one. So not sure if that's going to be a very great card, but creating a 2/2 black zombie creature for other means is probably really good. Then you also have Wilhelm the Rock Cleaver, another Decayed thing, but this one's specifically for Commander. Whenever another zombie you control dies, if it didn't have Decayed, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token with Decayed. And at the beginning of your end step, you may sacrifice a zombie if you do draw a card. So that's kind of the concept I'd see, is a lot of sacrifice for things. I mean, black has a lot of stuff like Village Rites and I have the card right here. Deadly Dispute? Yeah, Deadly Dispute. Sacrifice an artifact or a creature, draw 2 cards, and create a treasure token. Like, that's heck ton of value. So definitely nice. This is the Disturb thing again. You get the Beloved Beggar. This is that same Disturb mechanic, so essentially you can cast this. It's a 0/4 for 2. But you can pay its Disturb cost of 6 when it's in the graveyard to create a Flying Vigilance 4/4 Spirit. And if Generous Soul would be put into the graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead. So, unless it gets exiled in your grave, it should be okay. Light Up the Night. It's a sorcery. Light Up the Night deals X damage to any target. It deals X +1 damage instead if that target is a creature or a planeswalker. And then you can flashback it. So remove X loyalty counters from among planeswalkers you control. If you cast this spell this way, X can't be 0. So that's a Midnight Hunt card, but that's Chandra in there, I think, if I recall correctly. So does that mean Chandra's going to come back for this? That'd be interesting. I don't know. Not quite sure, but we'll have to see. Contortionist Troop is another card here. This is in a different language, but I'm almost certain I can try and read it. Enters the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on it. So, because it's for X. And then it's got Coven. And I'm sure if you control 3 creatures with different powers, I'm sure it says maybe creatures you control. So, and maybe it's put a +1/+1 counter on all creatures you control. So that's kind of neat because it's a creature. So it comes into play with X +1/+1 counters, and then you get to give those out to people depending on the Coven thing. So here we have the land cycle for this set, which is, I don't know. It's pretty nice. It's dual lands, right? Enters the battlefield tapped unless you control 2 or more other lands. So essentially, anytime past turn 2, these cards just come into play untapped, which is really great. These are also the borderless versions of them. I expect them to be very, very, very cool. They get these nice little, like, this little art effect to them. Very neat, right? You see that the things that are going to be preferenced here, you're going to have Azorius, Dimir, Gruul, Rakdos, and Celestia are going to be like the 5 things in here that are going to be pretty prevalent. So next we have Galvanic Iteration. When you cast your next instant or sorcery spell this turn, copy that spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. Flashback. So, it's essentially more stuff for Izzet things to do. This is probably going to actually be pretty good for... This is just going to be pretty good for, like, Izzet Burn, probably. Enduring Angel. This is a 3 white and 2 colorless. 3/3. Flying, double strike. You have hexproof, so you, the player, have hexproof. And if your life total would be reduced to 0 or less, instead transform Enduring Angel and your life total becomes 3. Then if Enduring Angel didn't transform this way, you lose the game. Very interesting. So this Angel, I don't know if it's going to be something... I mean, it's probably going to be something I'd want to use in my Orzhov Angels, but Flying Double Strike, which is already amazing, it costs 5, but specifically 3 white, so meh. You have hexproof, which means nobody can hit you in the face with stuff, which means that anything that's like, you know, opponent discards a card, or opponent, you know, like Elite Spellbinder you couldn't do, Skull Raid you couldn't do, Elderfang Disciple you couldn't do. Yeah, you couldn't do those things. It's pretty crazy. Maddening Cacophony, I think that's the name of the card. Yeah. Maddening Cacophony, can't do that. You can't do Tasha's Hideous Laughter. You can't do any of that. You're just hexproof, which is really great. So just for that alone, I guess it's worth it. If your life total would be reduced to 0 or less, instead transform Enduring Angel and your life total becomes 3. So you essentially don't die when you would take damage. You'd then gain 3 life, and then you'd transform this into Angelic Enforcer. So the only downside is that it's got the transform in it, but it does not have a daybound nightbound, which means that it's not affected by the circle, by the cycle. So it won't transform if it turns to nightbound, because this isn't a daybound permanent. So that's at least nice. It gets around that, but if something makes it transform, then you lose. So, very interesting. Angelic Enforcer's power and toughness are equal to your life total. When an Angelic Enforcer attacks, double your life total. So that's kind of neat. Same concept, you still have hexproof, and it's still flying. It just doesn't have double strike. Its power and toughness are equal to your life total. I think it'd be nice for life gain angels. It's definitely risky, though, because you run the... Like, if there's something that comes out that transforms your creatures, you're not going to do very well. Because then you'll just lose. Alright, more wolf stuff, it looks like. So, Howl of the Hunt, Flash, enchant creature. When Howl of the Hunt enters the battlefield, if enchanted creature is a wolf or a werewolf, untap that creature. And then enchanted creature gets +2/+2 and has vigilance. Not bad. That's very good for that werewolf commander. Snarling Wolf. Snarling Wolf gets +2/+2 until end of turn. Activate only once each turn. Not bad. That's a pretty good one. Pestilent Wolf. You pay 1 and a green for 2/2 creature, and then you pay 2 and a green to gain Death Touch until end of turn. So Death Touch Wolf, can't go wrong. Festival Crasher. When you cast an instant or sorcery spell, Festival Crasher gets +2/+0 until end of turn. So more of that instant sorcery speed kind of stuff. Unruly Mob. Whenever another creature you control dies, put a +1/+1 counter on Unruly Mob. So that's kind of really nice for that those decayed zombies. So, yeah, put a +1 encounter whenever something dies. So this could probably ramp up pretty quick depending, so we'll see. So here we have the night and the day tokens. This is what Arlinn looks like regularly. And then this is Sereth the Viper's Fang. So this is a human warlock. I think this is the like head of the Dawnheart, I think. I could be wrong. If this isn't her, it's some other person. But other tapped creatures you control have Death Touch. Other tapped creatures you control have Death Touch. Other untapped creatures you control have Hexproof. And then you can pay 1 and tap this to untap another target creature or land you control. So you use this to untap a land. This might be a pretty powerful card in something like green. I don't know, though. I'm going to be very interested to see if there's a Selesnya Angel-Human hybrid deck that comes from this, but green, you also get stuff like Branded 7. So these are all the new cards that have just come out, or that have just been spoiled, essentially. And honestly, I'm pretty excited for a lot of them. Gruul is looking to be pretty powerful, with 2 Planeswalker and a Werewolf legendary creature. Looking to be pretty crazy, as far as also all the Wolf and Werewolf support, and a dual land. I imagine something's going to go up with that. I'm also curious to see how the Undead are going to work out, because I know Golgari Undead is something that I've wanted to play since they came out with Skeleton Swarming, but I'm not too sure if this is going to be the right call, or if it's going to make sense to do that. There's more cards that need to be spoiled before I actually get to anything. So then Sigarda, I mean, I'd love to play Selesnya. Selesnya is very fun. I'm not sure how it's going to work out, but we'll just have to see the more we get. But it looks pretty powerful for right now. Human, Angel, Selesnya. But that's specifically just for the set. I'd have to look into some of the other cards and the other sets to see what might end up actually being the better choice for this. And yeah, then just the general werewolves. I mean, Taver Ruffian seems like a pretty crazy card. Might of the Old Ways is a Coven card. You've got Arrogant Outlaw, so there are vampires. It just seems to be a lot. And also the Devil mechanic, I definitely think either Mono Red or Rakdos. Rakdos is probably going to be pretty crazy to do in here. Considering all the stuff that you can do for Rakdos in Standard now, I think that you're going to see a lot of Rakdos support then as well. I am curious to see how this Enduring Angel will work out, if there are cards that transform cards before their effects. Because if that's the case, then we're pretty much be no reason to play that, because you'd be risking it. Because this just transforms all Nightbound permanents, and this transforms all Daybound permanents. So, because Enduring Angel does not have Daybound or Nightbound, it does not count towards that. It does have a transform, though. So, that's that. But anyway, that's pretty much it for the update here. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the spoiler cast here. I'm very excited to see all these different things in play. There is also possibly a tournament I'll be entering. Gosh, I want to say late September, maybe early October. Probably be joining a standard tournament for Arena. So I'm trying to get a lot of cards together so that way I can get better at building the decks that I want to play and kind of get a better idea behind those things there. But thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate your support. Please make sure to like the video and also subscribe to the channel as well if you found any of this helpful. I'm pretty much going off of what Magic the Gathering knowledge I have, and this all my knowledge pretty much pertains to the standard. So if there are cards in modern sets that transform things before they need to be transformed, that's a Commander modern problem, right? Specifically, most of my knowledge comes from standard, so that's the kind of the only format I play, other than Commander sometimes. But Standard's the big thing I play. I love playing Standard. And let me know in the comments if you guys like playing Standard too. And let me know what card you guys are excited about now. I'm definitely collecting all the showcase cards for sure, because that's just what I do. But they just look so cool. They remind me a lot of the Throne of Eldraine showcase cards. So I'm very excited to try them out and see. But anyway, make sure to drink your water, eat your vegetables, and don't be a dick. And I'll catch you guys in the next spoiler announcement. All right, guys. Nerd out.